Yeah, here we go. Welcome to Movie Reviews with Treso, and I'm yours truly, Treso. And what are we doing here today? It's Movie Reviews with Treso Live. So these are the movies that I watched during the week, and giving you a glimpse into kind of what I like to watch, but then also giving you an indication of maybe what's good and maybe what's not so good. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring out the list for the week of the movies that I watched, and we'll go through them one by one, from worst to first, because that's how we do it. There's got to be winners, and there's got to be losers. So, without further ado, we're going to bring up the old movie review list, and we're going to go through them. And I think it's a little deceptive because not every week are we going to have 10 on this list, as we can see right here. We're going to boil it down to just how many that I watched. Yeah, sure, some weeks it might be 10, some weeks 7, but guess what? This week, there are 5. So here we go. Without further ado, I think we've got number 5. We got Ted Lasso, Season 1. Oh yeah, okay. So you go, Tress, why are you watching Ted Lasso? So I feel as though that... Well, Ted Lasso, I mean, I don't feel like this show really gravitated towards me in any way, shape, or form. Am I a soccer fan? Not really. Am I an American football fan? Kinda. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm more of a CFL football guy. And you know what CFL is? It is the Canadian Football League. Because, hell, I'm from Canada, so that's those are the games I watch. But you might ask, Tress, what drew you to a comedy starring Jason Sudeikis about a American football coach that travels across the pond all the way to England to coach a soccer team that he knows nothing about? Well, you know what? I gotta be honest. I updated my Apple subscriptions, and you know what? They kind of said, hey, you're already paying for Apple Music. You're already paying for some storage on your phone. They said, hell, why don't you grab an Apple TV subscription while you're at it and enjoy some of our fine programming, which is very slim pickings. So that's what I did. I ended up getting Apple TV Plus, and one of the shows that I was on there poking around was Ted Lasso, and I feel as though recently it won, I think, a couple of awards. Was it won a couple of awards or was nominated for a few Emmys? I think Jason Sudeikis and company won some awards. So I was like, can it really be all that bad? Might as well give it a shot. So that's what I did. I watched the first season of Ted Lasso that came out in 2020. And yikes, let me tell you, I don't think I really enjoyed it all that much. It's not a terrible show, but it's incredibly safe. You know, it's one of those shows where it's like there's no sharp edges, no one's getting offended at anything, because there's nothing really to be offended at. Our main character of Ted Lasso is the most optimistic human on the planet. He does nothing out there. He's just a nice guy. And when you have nice guy all the time, it's kind of gets boring. I mean, most of the conflicts between people aren't ongoing. Between his players and coaches are ultimately diffused immediately because Ted Lasso is so nice. So a lot of the, let's just say, opportunities for drama and, you know, like real juicy plot points really don't get there because Ted Lasso's optimism and niceness essentially, like, you know, crush any opportunity at some like really awesome dramatic moments. It's just essentially done. And in terms of, but then people are going to say, hey, this isn't a drama, this is a comedy, we're not worried about those interactions, we're worried about laughing, which should be kind of the point of all these shows. Does it make us laugh? Long story short, not really. I feel like this show plays it incredibly safe, so the comedy is incredibly safe. So as we'll see here when I show you the first clip here from Ted Lasso, you can see just from the interaction between him and the reporters asking him questions is just like, whoa. All it is just like the safest comedy of all time. So here we go. This is Ted Lasso, a clip from Ted Lasso, him interacting with the media on day one.
How about I go ahead and address the larger than average elephant in the room?
No, I have never coached the sport that you folks call football.
At any level?
Jesus.
And
Heck, you could fill 2 internets with what I don't know about football. But I'll tell you what I do know. I know that AFC Richmond, like any team I've ever coached, is going to go out there and give you everything they got for all 4 quarters.
what was that?
2 Oh, right, sorry. Halves, yeah. They're going to give you everything they got for 2 halves, win or lose.
Or tie.
Right, y'all do ties here. Sorry, that's going to take some getting used to for me, okay? Because back where I'm from, you try to end the game in a tie, well, that might as well be the first sign of the apocalypse.
So there you have it. You know, yes, we kind of get a good element of a fish out of water scenario. You know, an American coach coming over to coach English football players. Yeah, that premise probably works. But I feel like these, you know, the ooh-wee, I'm just a Southern football coach that doesn't quite know the rules. Well, that goes on for 10 episodes in season 1. And initially, yeah, it's pretty cutesy, but at the end of it all, you know what? You've had enough of it. I feel like, yes, will I check out Ted Lasso season 2? Probably. Will it be reviewed on here? Most likely. We'll see if it gets better or it gets worse, you know. But right now, out of the 5 that I watched this week, yeah, Ted Lasso coming in at number 5. So that being said, with Ted Lasso coming in here at number 5, I needed to not play it safe. I said I was watching Ted Lasso all week. I got to come up with something new, something artsy, something that people wouldn't expect Treso to watch, something that's been on my list for a while that maybe I was a little apprehensive about watching. And I'll tell you right now, that movie is, boom, A Ghost Story. Yeah, and I don't know if anyone has heard of this movie from 2017 starring Rooney Mara and Casey Affleck, but it is so bizarre. This movie is so bizarre. And I'll show you a scene coming up, and it's just like, hopefully it'll set the tone for what this movie's like, because it's very, very hard to explain. I think people were expecting a horror type film, considering that A Ghost Story was produced by A24, this production company, which also made Hereditary and Midsommar. So everyone was like, ooh, here's going to be a sweet new horror film starring Rooney Mara and Casey Affleck. Unfortunately for all those people that thought it was a horror film, it's more of a drama and a kind of a movie about loss and coming to grips with that loss. Spoiler alert right here, you might want to cover your ears, but I think the whole the whole story here is about Rooney Mara dealing with the loss of Casey Affleck, who for majority of the film is wearing a ghost sheet, or with his little eye holes cut out. So even right there, you know, people are gonna go, "Ooh, yeah, that's a hipster movie right there." Casey Affleck wandering around for an hour and a half with a bed sheet over him. Yeah, I mean, it's not everyone's cup of tea. I'll say right now, kind of giving you a sense of what this movie's like before I play the clip, is the pacing is so bizarre. So when we go through scenes of Casey Affleck in the bedsheet, kind of looking on to the people around and his creeping, I guess, ghost creeping, it's so slow. Like, I mean, like, there's such a slow burn for a lot of these scenes, and then the pacing kind of goes through time. as soon as Rooney Mara moves out of the house and like a new single Latin mom moves in, I mean, like, the pacing just keeps going and going and going till a point where we're far in the future. And then all of a sudden, we're far in the past. So, I mean, like, the timeline is kind of shifting all over the place, and the pacing is incredibly slow. So I feel like for the most part, this does not really appeal. This movie does not appeal to mainstream audiences. I feel like if you're looking for some good emotional scenes, a heartfelt kind of story, and you can kind of punch through those slow moments and get through this hour and 45, you'll probably have a decent enough time. But for most people, where they say, hey, my favorite movie, it was, I don't know, Spider-Man, or, one of the Avengers movies, this is definitely not for you. So I feel like right now I'm gonna hit you up from a clip from A Ghost Story, and you're gonna know exactly what I mean when I say the pacing is slow with this bad boy. So here we go. Here's our clip from A Ghost Story. So there you go. You're like, Tress, did you just show me a 30-second clip of Rooney Mara eating an entire fucking pie? Yeah, I did. And guess what? Thankfully, because I'm a nice guy, I could have left the entire 5-minute scene in there. She eats a whole pie over the course of 5 minutes while Casey Affleck in a ghost sheet stands on and just kind of creeps. So, I mean, this movie is artsy for sure, and definitely not everyone's cup of tea. And as you probably noticed, that aspect ratio was not quite right. I mean, you're not getting the full picture. So you get your nice little neat square with the rounded corners. So yeah, this is an artsy movie to the nth degree. And in the end, does it fall flat? Maybe a smidge. I mean, what I really enjoyed is that, they took a chance. It's a different movie. It's not the same shit we've been watching week after week. It's something different. But, can I hear the reviews out there from our mainstream audience saying, hey, this is boring as shit? Of course. I definitely get it. I felt it there myself. Is it my favorite movie on the list? No, heck no. That's why it's coming in at number 4. Number 4 of the movies that I watch. So don't think that this is kind of one in high regard. It's one that's kind of like another, like, it has its moments. I can't complain. So moving right along, what's number 3? This is probably one that you could probably understand why I watched this guy, because I watched the first movie in my previous live movie review, and that one is FX. So I ended up watching the sequel to FX, and that is FX2, The Deadly Art of Illusion, starring Brian Brown and Brian Dennehy. If you don't know those two names, well, shame on you. I feel like I always think back to The Simpsons, where they talk about they have the trivia at the end of that one Simpsons episode where it's like, name these 2 popular Simpsons characters, and it's an obvious outline of Bleeding Gums Murphy and Dr. Marvin Monroe. But then after the commercials, when you come back, and it's like, well, if you guessed Dr. Marvin Monroe and Bleeding Gums Murphy, like, you're wrong. They were never popular. So I feel like Brian Brown and Brian Dennehy are like kind of, I wouldn't say B-list actors, but they're definitely not like the hot A-list celebs from the 80s. Let's just say that. I mean, I think the biggest Brian Brown film from the 80s is probably Cocktail, which he shared the screen with Tom Cruise, and that movie was pretty decent. And then I think Brian Dennehy is, I think he's the cop from Rambo, so the original Rambo movie. So he has his place. He has his place in in some good films, but I mean, for him to lead a film, it's like, I don't know. For me, I'll tell you right now, I really love Brian Dennehy. Brian Brown, I could take or leave him, but this movie is so much more enjoyable with Brian Dennehy. And that's what I'll say. Like, I feel like we don't get Dennehy until about halfway through the movie, which is a damn shame. So, just to set it up, I'll kind of get into the plot just a little bit here, just to kind of give you a sense of what FX looks like. The first one was essentially cops coming to him to essentially stage the murder of a mob boss so that he could get into the witness protection group, and that all of these people would think he's dead and he would be able to go to trial and give his testimony against other mob members, right? But they would think he's dead in the meantime. They wouldn't be looking for him. So they called upon the services of Brian Brown's character to essentially stage this hit in the middle of a restaurant. And then we end up when we go through the motions of FX. The first movie, we learn that the cops are dirty. So that's kind of like the premise of FX1. So FX2, The Deadly Art of Illusion, does not give us anything more than that. It's very similar to the first story, which is bizarre considering at the end of the first movie, Brian Dennehy and Brian Brown walk away with, $15 million. So it's like, they should be doing something with the $15 million. They are not. They're back in New York. Brian Brown has a new hot girlfriend who has a kid, and the ex-father, the ex-dad, the ex-husband is a cop again, and he says, "Hey, Brian Brown, I need your help on this case, tracking down this serial killer. We need to stage up this scenario in order to trap him, and we need your expertise in FX." And what goes on from there is kind of a little bit of a convoluted plot, because they catch the weird serial killer rapist off the beginning, but then the ex-husband / cop that hired Brian Brown to do the FX, he dies in the process. I guess a little bit of a spoiler. Brian Denny, he's not even in here at this point, so don't even worry. And then yet again, the cops that are in the department that the ex-husband was working for are dirty, and they're after Brian Brown again, and he needs to call upon the help of his old buddy Brian Dennehy. So a lot of Brians, 2 Brians, the movie, but you'll understand why I love this movie, and it's from this scene right here. You know what? Brian Denny, he steals the show. Let's just say that. I'll give you a clip right here of Brian Dennehy in FX2, and you'll realize why Tress kind of likes this movie, and why, yeah. It's not because it's good, it's because it's bizarre. So take a look at this clip from FX2.
Once in my life, you walk in, use my computer, use me, then you disappear. It's not right, Leo.
You're absolutely right, North. You know what you need? Vacation.
Leo, I can't believe it. Jamaica! Oh! Am I going alone?
Well, I don't know. What date does it say?
It's open.
Really? Oh. The same as mine.
Oh, Leo, you shouldn't have.
Yes, I should have. I should have a long time ago. There are a lot of other things I shouldn't have done, but this I should have done.
So there you have it. There's the scene right there. I mean, Brian Denny, he's no longer a cop in this one, and he's trying to get the services of his old coworker to help him out with the case, like get some information. And yeah, he laid on the moves pretty thick. Not only did he give her tickets to Jamaica, but then, yeah, that just pretty much got her right in the driver's seat. Initially, she was like, hell, I'm not helping you, Brian Dennehy. What the hell do you know? And he was like, hey, you forgot. I might be an older man. I might be a semi-balding man. I might be a little bit of an overweight man, but he can lay the moves on pretty thick. An old Air Jamaica ticket, and, yeah, he can make the moves happen. So I feel like we get into scenarios where Brian Dennehy's just kind of like chewing the scenery a little bit. And you know what? It makes for an enjoyable film. But, you know, all in all, I can see this is another one where people are like, Tress, come on. We know that you love late 80s, early 90s action films. You know, would most people say they're garbage? For sure. But I feel like there's nice little funny moments in there, and I laugh my butt off. I mean, like, I laugh more at scenes like that in FX2 here than anything from Ted Lasso season 1. So, I mean, FX2, yeah, maybe a little high on this list, but I will say, I don't know, A Ghost Story and Ted Lasso maybe fell a little short for me, so FX2, boom. Out of nowhere, it gets the bronze medal for the week. Crazy, but whatever. I mean, enjoyable enough. So if you gotta really check out a movie and get some kind of cheap laughs out of it, FX2, boom, movie for you. All right, so moving along to number 2. What's the second best movie that I watched this week? And yeah, another little bit of an older film that you know, I think it was nominated for quite a few awards for acting, and that movie is Doubt. So it is a movie starring Meryl Streep as a crotchety old nun, and Philip Seymour Hoffman as a creepy priest that, you know, is probably, he's you know, diddling the kids. So you're like, we don't like him. He's the bad guy here. But we don't quite know that he's the creepy diddling priest, because he's kind of like he's a little bit of a Weasley character. And then that's pretty much the premise of this entire film, where there's a scenario that goes on, a situation goes on between him and a student within this this school. And on one side we have Meryl Streep's character, the old crotchety nun that you're like, no one likes her. She's kind of like, you know, got a stick up her butt. And she believes that, you know, Philip Seymour Hoffman, he's a goddamn creep. And then the other side, we have the young and naive teacher and Amy Adams, who's like, well, I believe him. If he says he didn't, you know, diddle the kid, well, I believe him. You know, he's going to tell the truth, right? He's a priest. He's going to tell the truth. And Meryl Streep goes from being like the unlikable crotchety nun throughout this movie, like to be like, the kids hate her, everyone hates her, to being like the best frickin' character in this movie, where it's like she's laying the smackdown on the creepy priest, being like, you know what, I'm gonna keep fighting you until you get your ass out of our school, because we don't need this shit anywhere near or around these kids. And you're like, yes. You go from being like against crotchety nuns to being like, I am so pro crotchety nun. So right here, I'll give you a clip of just Meryl Streep just laying the beat down on Philip Seymour Hoffman. Probably one of the best moments, one of the best clips. So I'll show that right now. Bingo bango. Here's our scene from Doubt.
I care about that boy.
Why? Because you smile at him. And you sympathize with him. And you talk to him as if you were the same. You are a cheat. And that warm feeling you experienced when that boy looked at you with trust was not the sensation of virtue. That can be got by any drunkard with his tot of rum.
So, yeah, there, you know what? Great performance from Meryl Streep, even Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, this is one movie where I was like pretty skeptical of whether or not I would enjoy it. I knew it was just going to be strictly a drama. You're not going to get any action or any type of, it's not going to be a thriller. So I'm like, kind of goes outside the lines of some of the movies that I normally watch. FX2, for example, the goofy old 80s ones. So this one I was a little bit apprehensive to put it in the old DVD player, but I am so glad I did, because those performances were beautiful. And I feel like Meryl Streep, great actress. I mean, like, she deserves all the accolades that she's been given, because this was enjoyable just because she went from unlikable crotchety old nun to like the most likable crotchety old nun. And it's way too easy to put this one into number 2 for the week, because great film, great watch, highly recommend it. Yeah, I think it's another just under 2 hours, so if you got a night and want to watch a good movie, this is the one for you. Maybe a little bit heavy in terms of the subject matter. I mean, we are talking about a creepy kid diddling priest here, so I mean, like, the subject matter is probably a little bit more heavy than some of the rest of these films, but all in all, a great, enjoyable film. Definitely deserves the watch. Alright, so what made it into the number 1 spot? Well, you probably guessed it. It's the movie in the title here, the one that was recommended from last week from our audience, and that one is Bloodsport. Oh my god. Just to watch this movie again, it is phenomenal. I mean, I haven't watched it in years, and it is fantastic. When we're talking about like old 80s movies that you're like, how the hell did this get made, and how the hell did this make so much money? This is one of the movies where you're like, yes, we need more of this in this day and age. Essentially, it's just pretty much cuts to the chase immediately. Jean-Claude Van Damme, it's the training montage is right at the beginning. He is obviously not from Japan, but he has a shidoshi, and he goes through, and his shidoshi was a guy he tried to steal from in back when he was a kid. So they're like, well, you know what, I'll train you, because you know what, we'll keep you off the streets, and I'll train you in the secret martial art ways. So this it's kind of like a Karate Kid type scenario off the beginning, where it's kind of like, okay, Jean-Claude Van Damme, you're a little bit of a ruffian when you're a kid, so this old Japanese man and his wife and his kid kind of take him in and learn him the ways of the the martial arts. So that's like the initial 15 minutes of the movie, the initial start. But then after that, it's like, nope, we're going right into the kumite, baby. Kumite, kumite, kumite. We're going right to the tournament. It's going like, yep, I gotta make my shidoshi proud. I gotta make my master proud. So he's like, I'm going to this kumite tournament in Hong Kong. And that's exactly what he does. And right away, you're going to see, we get to this scene immediately when he gets to the kumite tournament. They say, we're not going to let you in, because guess what? You're a white guy, and we know that your shidoshi, he's a Japanese guy. We don't believe you. We don't believe that you have the skills to kick ass. And guess what Jean-Claude Van Damme does? He says, what do you need me to do? And they say, bitch, give us the death touch. If you really are who you say you are, and you have this martial arts skill, you can give us the death touch, and we'll let you in the tournament. So here's Jean-Claude Van Damme demonstrating the death touch.
Son of the bitch. Is that good enough, guys?
We honor your invitation.
No shit, you honor his invitation.
So you're automatically gonna know that, like, that's pretty much Bloodsport in a nutshell. A lot of, like, giant eyes out of Jean-Claude JCVD, like, So a lot of good, just little fight scenes, and just goofy, all around goofy. Good action film. You can't beat it. I mean, it's another one that's probably 90 minutes long. You're not gonna spend, half a day watching it like the Lord of the Rings movies. It's just a good, fun movie that you can watch at the end of the night and laugh at. So I think the thing that people kind of mix up when they watch some of these movies is that they're expecting them to be incredibly badass, incredibly cool. They take them way too seriously. So, like, there's too many factors where people are like, I want to see a badass film, but here's the thing. Don't watch Bloodsport with the perspective of it being cool and or badass. Watch it as a comedy and watch it for all the stupid lines and stupid things they do, and you'll have an absolute great time. I mean, I'm glad that the audience recommended this one for me because it's getting a big thumbs up from this guy. I had so much fun watching Bloodsport, and hell, you know what? There's not a lot to talk about. It's such an easy one to kind of review. You're like, yeah, the premise of this movie is Jean-Claude Van Damme goes through a training montage doing splits at the start, and then immediately goes to Hong Kong and kicks ass in a Kumite tournament. Boom. That's it. That's the movie. You either like it or you don't. There's nothing to explain or set up. It's just that good. So, I mean, a lot of just good moments where he's like smashing bricks and kicking ass. So, and I laughed my ass off the entire way because it's stupid and funny. So I feel like at the end of it all, pretty good, gosh darn good movie, and I'm glad that it was recommended to me. So I feel like, as we move along here, I welcome the recommendations as we go into the second part of this review after I am done, and I'll ask the audience for their recommendations as well as maybe any omissions or errors that I had along the way. Sure, you might be a big Ted Lasso fan and you might disagree with my review of it and what I had to say, and or Ghost Story FX. You might think it should be lower or higher on the list, and I want to know about it because I want to get the conversation started. And you know what? I'm not perfect. I don't know. This is kind of just my personal opinion of these things. I've seen a billion of them in my lifetime, and this is kind of where they shook out during the week. So I hope you enjoyed this portion of Movie Reviews Live with Treso. These are the 5 movies that I watched during the week. Bloodsport, Doubt, FX2, A Ghost Story, and Ted Lasso Season 1. So I'll join you. I'll probably come back next time with a few more here. Me always watching 1 or 2 a day. So we'll have another live episode, sooner rather than later because hell, I love doing these things. So, well, everybody, I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me for this live edition, and keep on watching movies, and I'll keep reviewing them with you. We'll do it. See you next time.